So really great to welcome all of you. So shall we start? It's just great to be together again, together here with David Luttenberger, our special guest. Hi, David. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Appreciate the opportunity.
That's great. And also my colleague, Soha Atallah, Vice President for Marketing from WPO. Hi, Soha. You are muted, but that's fine.
Hi, Luciana. Hi, David. Hello,
Hello.
Hey.
and happy to be back in action to our webinar series. And we are thrilled to have with us David from Mintel.
Yes, really nice. We met David recently in Bangkok during our board meeting that took place in Thailand, and David was there as well, leading the judging session for the DAOs Award, the Packaging Innovation Award. So and now it's nice to meet again here digitally. So I want to start, let me just start sharing some slides with all of you, and then we move on to David's presentation. That is our main topic today. It's just great to welcome David, that will talk about packaging and consumer goods global trends by Mintel. So David Luttenberger, for years now, is the global packaging director from Mintel, and also a great packaging colleague working together with us in different perspectives for so many years now. And just great to welcome all of you today. We have a very nice international audience joining our webinar. So again, more than 500 people registered. It's so nice because this is a connecting point for us. Is the moment that we can connect and share news and informations and trends on what is going on in this very dynamic packaging ecosystem. So we have people from all over the globe, as you can see. So welcome to all of you. And you see, it's 9 a.m. in the US, almost lunchtime here in Brazil, 5 p.m. in Lebanon. And so it's really, we are representing this international audience. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. So again, introduce yourself in the chat, say where you're coming from. It's a nice opportunity to network. And as well, I would like to invite you to send your questions through the Q&A channel so that we have them separately. And after David's presentation, Soha will support us to ask those questions, and so that we can have conversation on top of them, a debate on top of them, and explore all this that we are going to discuss today. But before we start, let me talk very briefly about WPO and our latest activities as well. So for the ones joining us for the first time, WPO gathers 88 packaging institutes and associations from 63 different countries worldwide under the goal to foster and support packaging advancement on a global level. And that includes different perspectives. We support packaging innovation in different areas. So packaging science and innovation is a key aspect for WPO. Also supporting and sharing knowledge, references on sustainability and circularity. Packaging that saves food, also a very strategic topic for society, and how packaging can contribute for more sustainable food chains. We also support training and expertise around the globe, supporting WPO members on a local level, among many other activities that we are promoting throughout the year. Our mission is to promote better quality of life through better packaging for more people. And we do believe in packaging's positive impact from different perspectives. So as a strategic tool to source society, to source nowadays more than 8 billion people on Earth that requires different products for their well-being, for their health, for their convenience, and how we can make it possible for all those products to reach each person, each consumer in the best way. Also a very strategic tool for a country's economic growth, supporting the local industry to add value to its products, to enhance its products' shelf life, to make sure that product can source their national audience and internationally as well. Packaging is a key tool for supply chains, bringing lots of efficiency, bringing functionality and preventing loss of products. Also coping with sustainability, making sure that we have efficiency throughout those supply chains, that we can avoid products loss, that we can make products reach consumers in the best way. And for sure, looking after consumption, how we can propose better waste management to avoid pollution, but at the same time, how we can have better circular infrastructures, recycling technologies in place, how we can engage and educate consumers to disposal for recycling so that we can give a longer life to packaging materials. Also, a very positive impact on sourcing society, offering convenience and safety, coping with regulations, for example, food safety regulations, among so many others that will secure the quality of life for consumers and for the environment as well. And last but not least, sharing information with consumers. So this is how we believe that we can really foster our industry for a greater positive impact in serving society. This is the packaging role, to serve society in the best way. And for that, we have been promoting different activities, and I wanted to share some of them with you. And also with that, explain why we skipped our webinar in June. May and June were very busy months, not only for WPO, but for sure for our global packaging community as well. So end of May, both WPO delegation attended the ProPack MENA show that takes place in Egypt, and many activities were supported by WPO alongside the show as a training program that counted with more than 50 participants on packaging development and technology. Also chaired by Soha, we had this very important roundtable supported by UNIDO, supported as well by Informa Markets, promoting the exchange of information among packaging organizations from Arab countries and from African countries as well. That means a regional discussion on how we can support more sustainable food systems. We had some panels discussions, different board members attended, and especially our local member from the Printing and Packaging Chamber as well. And that means many activities going on, gathering our members from African countries and from Arab countries as well. Going further, Liban Pack, together with UNIDO and supported by ProPack MENA Informa, hosted the Arab Star Pack Award ceremony, a very nice evening, a gala dinner, celebrating packaging innovation in the Arab region. So a lot of celebration, and it's a very important moment. I like those moments because they strengthen our industry, they encourage further innovation. They also value all the efforts of the packaging professionals behind packaging innovation. After that, beginning of June, we had the Expo Pack Mexico show going on, promoted by BMMI. My first time over there, I could attend a very nice panel on women in packaging. It's always nice to exchange information, to exchange experience, and especially to build a common voice on how the packaging industry can support to empower women to reach leadership position in our field. I mean, and that goes from supporting their career roadmap, from as well building a culture inside the company, outside the company, to support women to pursue their career and fulfill their potential. And also, for example, dialoguing with governments, for example, to foster a better infrastructure for child care. So there are many aspects that can be focused and can count on the industry support to build this environment for women to also to grow in this career and work contributing alongside a diverse environment and in our industry. Also in Mexico, we had WPO's board member in Mexico, that is AME, promoting their packaging award, the Envase Estelar. I was proud to be there supporting them and also to cheer this very special momentum in the region, celebrating packaging innovation in Mexico. From Mexico, our WPO delegation flew to Thailand, to Bangkok, for a very special week within ProBake Asia. So ProBake Asia is a very important show in the Asian region, gathering all the different countries in the region. And we had around 30 board members of WPO attending the show, and more than, how can I say, thousands of participants over there as well. WPO had a booth over there where we welcomed visitors. Also, our member from Australia, AIP, organized a global packaging forum to share global perspectives. And we had also hosted WPO's board meeting, gathering board members from all over the globe. And it was very special occasion to be together again and to align our plans and strategy on how we can support the global packaging industry. And last but not least, our very special World Star Award ceremony also took place in Bangkok in a very special night, a gala dinner gathering more than 300 participants from all over the globe. We could celebrate packaging innovation on a global level. You know, you can check all the winners at the worldstar.org website. There you can see the winners for the 2024 edition and also for previous years as well. Also, we offer at WPO's website this packaging trends report based on the winners of the World Stars. It is available for download, so please access our website and make the best use of it. And last but not least, the entries for the 25th edition of the World Star Awards is already open. So if you have won a contest, a packaging award in your region recognized by WPO, and you can check it at the website worldstar.org, you can apply and run for this global recognition. So we invite you to visit our website and be there attending and participating in the next year's edition. It's really a special recognition on a global level, right, highlighting how much a company is investing in packaging innovation, in new processes, and really investing to bring bold value to the packaging market. So that much went on in the last month, and now we are back here for our webinars where we can share more information and for sure, make sure that we can connect our global packaging community. So I invite you to stay tuned on WPO activities, follow us in social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X as well. Visit our website, download our newsletter. In soon, end of July, we'll have a new edition of WPO's newsletter, and check in our website the calendar of global packaging events going on around the globe. So great, just a very small summary of what went on, but now we go back to our main topic today. So today we have David Luttenberger, that is Global Packaging Director for Mintel. Mintel is the market intelligence agency expert in what consumers want, but especially why they want it. So Mintel supports companies in their marketing strategy, and they have great insights to share with us. So with that, I would like to invite David Luttenberger to share with us information. And as I mentioned, please share with us your question through the Q&A channel, and we'll go through them at the end.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I'm going to try to get to my slides here very quickly. All right. Get to the presenter view here. All right, Luciana, are we good on the view?
It's perfect.
And you can hear me okay?
Yes, perfect, David.
Great,
Thank you.
great, thanks. What an introduction that was, Luciana. I think that really shows not only the importance, but the scope of the work that the WPO does. You and I have known each other for several decades at least, and it seems like we always see each other in the WPO countries around the world: Brazil, Colombia, Germany, Tokyo, Japan, Thailand, anywhere around the world we see WPO members, WPO activities. It is really what I consider to be the premier, the preeminent organization, as Luciana says, that really harmonizes the global packaging industry, but not only looks at it from a global perspective, but it looks at it from regional and even individual country perspectives as well. And I think that's really important as we look at the development of package innovation around the world, that we share our innovations and look at the opportunities for technology and innovation transfers from one region of the world to another country or even a local municipality with different packaging innovations. So what I'm going to share today sort of really builds on the WPO activities and not look at individual technologies, but look at some of the bigger picture trends that Mintel sees as having really tremendous impact on the world of packaging, but how it manifests itself in different areas, in different regions of the world. We could talk about, 100 different packaging trends that we see around the world. I've picked out a few today that I think are really important for the global packaging community to consider, to analyze, to discuss, and to put into action. The first three here, I'm just going to share some brief perspectives, and then the following four, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on. But certainly, as I travel around the world, the ideas, the legislation that's being put in place around extended producer responsibility has captured the attention of pretty much every major CPG around the world. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if brand owners or package manufacturers would be willing to pay to reclaim and be responsible for the products and packaging that they put into the marketplace, I would have said no way. But the world changes, the world of packaging changes, and the world of responsibility changes. We now see it as just incumbent upon ourselves as package manufacturers, as brands, as retailers, to be more responsible throughout the life cycle of our products, our packaging, our services, and be responsible for them. The challenge that we are having today with extended producer responsibility schemes is that they are all very different, country to country, state to state, and that's putting a lot of pressure on brands and package manufacturers to understand what specifically they will be responsible for and what the fees are that they're going to be responsible for. While here in the United States, we're seeing individual states being responsible for their EPR schemes, the challenge with that is even the language within an individual state's scheme or legislation is sort of not really defining who is actually responsible. Even within some documents, it says that a package manufacturer is responsible. In that same document on a second page, it may say that the brand is responsible. So until we get more harmonization and unification around EPR legislation, I think we're going to be continued to be mired by our own inability to define and place responsibility and even share with each other, what our fees, what our responsibility is going to be. So why EPR is paramount to making sure that we are acting in an environmentally responsible manner, I believe it's going to be many more years until we see EPR schemes and legislation that are actually effective. The second trend that I'll talk about here is recycled content. With the World Star events, with the Dow packaging events, just about with any packaging competition that we're seeing around the world today, the idea of using recycled content in any material, glass, metal, paperboard, rigid and soft flat plastics, we're seeing more and more use of recycled content. Certainly, we've seen with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation commitments that the use of recycled content is growing in those commitments. The challenge that we are seeing right now is many brands are using recycled content in their packaging as more of a marketing claim than as an environmental responsibility strategy or tactic. And the reason I say that is we are still designing packaging for disposal, but including higher and higher percentages of recycled content into that packaging. We know right now that packaging recycling around the world is at very low percentages, particularly with plastics. If we as brands, if we as package manufacturers, if we as consumer insights companies don't help educate consumers around the idea that we have to recycle properly, and that just because a package includes recycled content does not automatically make it recyclable. So what we need to do is be a little more responsible with our use of recycled content and engineer it into new packaging in ways that we can reclaim it. Because as long as we continue to use high quality, food grade recycled content in packaging that's being designed typically for disposal, for landfill, rather than for curbside collection, because we know store take back programs don't always work as well as we would like them to, we are wasting a very precious resource in that high quality food grade recycled content. So until we really reestablish our recycling infrastructures in a way that allows us to collect, sort, and process packaging in a much more efficient manner, we need to be more prudent in our use of recycled content and use it in packaging in ways that we can ensure that it's going to be reclaimed again and reused more properly. The next topic I'll just kind of touch on very lightly here is this transition we're seeing from multi-laminate structures to monomaterial structures. We've seen this across food, drink, beauty, personal care, household items, consumer goods, that we understand that the use of mixed or multi-laminate structures that cannot be separated or disassembled for recycling are very quickly being replaced by these monomaterial structures. The challenge we're having there is to find new barrier properties that don't contaminate the recycling stream or that don't otherwise make monomaterials non-recyclable and being able to use them again. I would say that particularly in flexible packaging, from what I have seen very recently, I was in Bangkok just a couple weeks ago, I looked at more than 300 packaging innovations. We are seeing monomaterial structures that we have never seen before and in end use categories we've never seen before. So certainly I would go out on a limb and say that this transition to monomaterial structures has become the new industry standard. We have seen it in major developed economies around the world. But when I was in Thailand a few weeks ago, I actually saw some very well printed, robust, large stand-up monomaterial pouches from some very underdeveloped or underserved Latin American countries. So when we begin to see this monomaterial trend transition, not from the developed and readily served countries and regions, but already beginning to take hold in these third world or underdeveloped, that tells me that this is a trend that is certainly on the rise, will continue. And as we see the commercialization and adoption of these types of structures in many more countries around the world, we're going to see improvements in barrier, improvements in adoption. But it's one of the key areas right now, particularly for flexible packaging and semi-rigid packaging, where I think has the greatest opportunity for growth. The next four of these particular trends I'm going to share this morning, I'm going to go into just a couple of bigger details about them to share with you what we think is really moving the industry. Artificial intelligence. I have been around the packaging industry for a little more than 30 years now. I've seen a lot of things come and go, RFID, the development of PET bottles, smart packaging, but typically when we see those types of innovations, they tend to impact maybe one region of the world, one package format, one end use category, of course, with the exception of sustainability, which is across everything. But this influx of artificial intelligence is not something that we are seeing that is going to happen in the packaging industry. It has already happened. It is in every facet, in every link in the supply chain. It truly has become, other than sustainability, the driving force within packaging. We are seeing AI being used in what Mintel calls learn manufacturing, which is the ability for machine learning, large language data analysis, predictive analysis to imitate these cognitive human functions, but also it's bringing into the packaging industry what I like to call Industry 5.0. We saw that Industry 4.0, that transition over the past 100 years from steam to electric to digitization and robotics, now into artificial intelligence. And this is where this combination of machine learning and AI and cognitive human function reproduction, as well as the interaction of humans with robotics, with humans with AI, to be able to help us not just do preventive maintenance in our machine, in our packaging lines, but do predictive maintenance as well. We have seen examples of AI being used on packaging lines to identify where a problem might occur as far off as 6 months in advance, so we can schedule our downtime, so we can look across multiple packaging lines and see that a component or maybe a web of material has the potential to break or to go down many weeks in advance and allow us to prepare for that. So the ability to take the bias out of predictive maintenance, but allow us to dig deeper into QC, into predictive maintenance, is really going to revolutionize the way we are using machine learning in our package manufacturing. When it comes to sustainability, we have seen apps at municipal recycling facilities being able to help us to better sort materials, not just by is it glass, but is it colored glass? Not just is it flexible packaging, but is it a multi-laminate structure that we can separate and properly sort and process? One of the areas I am most excited about in terms of artificial intelligence and sustainability is its use in life cycle analyses. At the present time, our life cycle analyses are only as good as the information that we have collected, and that information may be 12 to 18 months old. So we are making both tactical and strategic decisions about sustainable packaging with data that is oftentimes a year and a half old. With the incorporation of large language models and data analysis and algorithms, we are now able to input such things as pricing trends, as material availability, and to look at those factors in tandem with where is this package going to be used, and does a local municipal recycling or municipal infrastructure exists to recycle a certain type of package or material. So rather than making a decision based on information that may be a year and a half old, AI is going to allow us to do life cycle analyses that has multiple inputs in not just real time, but in future or predictive time, to look at pricing models, look at material availability, and make sure that we are looking at multiple scenarios. So if we are producing a product for different regions of the world, we can select the right package for the right product in the right region at the right point in time, and allow us to be even more precise in our sustainability analyses around which material and which formats we are going to use, not just today, but 6 months or a year from now. And of course, we look at the use of AI in intelligent design. And I think using AI in package design is just giving let me see here. I'm sorry here. What we're doing is we're giving the designers yet another tool in their toolbox to look at such things as brand ethos, to look at color, to look at the hierarchy and design of packaging, and then assign favorability scores to these to help us find products and packaging and design and graphics that are most likely to be successful into the marketplace. But as well as the positive attributes that AI is bringing, we also have to look at the consider that AI is internet based, and we have learned there is something called emergent behavior and hallucinations that are associated with AI. And that is what we don't yet understand, is how AI fully works and why it can go so deep in its collection and analysis of information that it begins to what we call hallucinate and come up with assumptions or predictions that are unintended and sometimes false. So we have to be able to put guardrails on AI to make sure that it's only analyzing information that we understand to be truthful, that they understand to be validated, so we can make sure that the decisions that we are making based on AI are actually true. The next of these big picture topics that I really am excited about is the idea of total carbon footprint. And Mintel and my Mintel packaging team fully believes that by the end of this decade, carbon footprint will be the single metric by which all things sustainable are measured. And the reason we believe that is over the past, gosh, honestly, 20 years, we have seen so many claims that say, well, this package is more sustainable than, or this material is more sustainable than, or this package is the most sustainable. And most often, those claims are being made based on dissimilar attributes. And what I mean is, yes, glass, for instance, can be infinitely recyclable, but it's also heavy. So when we say, well, glass is more sustainable than flexible packaging, that may be true in terms of recyclability. But if you think of transportation and energy use for distribution, flexible packaging is lightweight, so it might have a lower carbon footprint in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. But we're making those comparisons often on dissimilar attributes. When we look at total carbon footprint, a ton of carbon is the same in Beirut, Lebanon, as it is in Sao Paulo, Brazil, as it is in Bangkok or Bombay. So to look at the total carbon footprint of any package from raw materials extraction to production to transportation to potential end of life or alternative end of life scenarios, I like to say a ton of carbon is the same everywhere in the world. And when we begin to see that consumers are more interested in buying products that show the impact in terms of CO2 emissions, that's encouraging them to make more sustainable choices around packaging and around products. So we need to consider that we need to stop making these somewhat misleading claims about this package is more sustainable than that package, and start talking about this package and this product, this service has a total carbon footprint or a total carbon footprint reduction. That's what consumers are looking for. But it really needs to be in a context that they can understand. Um, we have seen in Mintel's new products, global new products database, I have found 9 different carbon claims. But just think of yourself as a consumer. You're at a store, you're trying to make a responsible purchasing decision, and you're looking at 2 different products. And the weight is the same, the package size is the same, you believe the quality and price to be the same, but one says, this package is made in a carbon neutral way. And another one says, this in a carbon compensated way. If we as brands, if we as an industry don't take that extra step to help consumers understand what these carbon claims mean, then we as consumers are just left to guess. We don't know which of these claims is going to be good, better, best, or maybe like in the example of carbon offsetting, may be just a little less bad. We don't necessarily need to help consumers understand the science. We need to help them understand the context. What does a ton of carbon look like? What does it truly mean? For instance, rather than saying we've reduced our carbon footprint by 500 tons, we might want to say it's the equivalent of taking 1,000 cars off the road of Buenos Aires for a month. In consumers' minds, that sounds like something that's very good. From Mintel's sustainability barometer, we already see that nearly 3/4 of consumers understand that carbon offsetting, for instance, is not necessarily doing something better. It's maybe just doing something that's a little bit less bad because they are still emitting the same amount of greenhouse gas emissions. They're still using the same amount of virgin materials. They're still doing all the things that they have already done, but they're just sort of buying their way out of it. And consumers are really looking for brands and multinational manufacturers to do the right thing. And consumers are already understanding that such things as carbon offsetting, while they can have some benefit, are generally not as good as other ways of production. So we need to be more clear, more transparent with consumers, but do it in a way that has a context that they understand. I'll move on to the next big trend here we've seen, and I know when I was in Bangkok and I saw the World Star Awards, when I saw the Dow Awards this year, we are seeing just a flood in the transition away from other package materials toward paper. But what I have really seen when it comes to this paperization of packaging, that many of these examples are in limited time offerings, or they're with sleeves, that they're in trials, because we're still really experimenting with paper and see where the potential for it is to supplant other material types. One of the things we have to consider, though, is that right now, when we look at the availability of FSC, or sustainably managed forests, is we are already outpacing the ability of the supply of this type of material to come into the packaging industry. Right now, all industrial wood traded globally that's used for paper, it includes paper-based packaging. So we as an industry are using 1/3 to nearly a half of all the available materials. So as we begin to think about why don't we make everything out of paper, because consumers think paper is the most sustainable package, is can we sustain the supply of certified sustainably managed forest products, but also do it in a way that the package is actually going to be better. We've seen so many different packages that are using paper, but because they have to use certain coatings to achieve barrier, that they are becoming non-recyclable, or they're contaminating that paper recycling stream. So we need to help consumers understand both the benefits and the challenges with using paper. At Mintel, we do a lot of social media listing, and I did a what we call an infagy search, and I looked at some of the social media conversations that mention paper packaging. And there's pros and cons to using paper as packaging. Many consumers see it still as wasteful. We know consumers would like to have no packaging, but we just know that that's impractical. But we also see some of the very positive words around paper packaging, that it can be compostable, that it may be, in their minds, the perfect package. But along with both the very positive attributes and the negative attributes that consumers see with paper-based packaging, we need to help them understand the realities that paper is not an infinite resource. Yes, it's annually renewable, but we have to pace our use of those sustainably managed forest products. Yes, paper can be compostable, but in other cases, just because it's paper doesn't always mean that it's recyclable. So we have to, again, help consumers understand what the pros and cons are, not just to paper-based packaging, but to all packaging types. We need, as I said earlier, to help consumers understand in this region of the world, with this product at this moment in time, why we are using a particular package and a particular package material, and why at this point in time it may be the more responsible choice. Looking ahead, and this may be something that is not on everyone's radar as a key packaging trend, but it is certainly one that's caught my attention. Particularly when we understand, as a consumer insights company, Mintel, is that if you want to get your message out to consumers, you need to be where they are. You may have really well-developed corporate social responsibility statements or environmental, social, and governance statements on your websites, but that's not where consumers are getting their information. That's not as what is influencing consumers today about products, services, packaging, who you are as a company. We know today that consumers don't just buy products, they buy into the brand and what that brand message is behind the product. More often, we are seeing brands, and today even package manufacturers, engaging with social media influencers to help consumers understand who I am as a brand, what I'm doing to be more responsible, not just to the environment, but to many different things. So we have seen, 6 out of every 10 consumers of social media also follow social media influencers, and about half of consumers have purchased a product after seeing it promoted on social media, not after they have seen it promoted on your website. So it's really important for you as a brand, for you as a package manufacturer, as a retailer, if you have not begun to investigate the use of talking to consumers where they are, which is on social media, and engaging with a specific social media influencer, I really highly suggest you do this. And a little bit of a plug for Mintel, we have begun to accumulate a database of social media influencers in different end use categories that we have begun to recommend to brands and package manufacturers. So we see it as a key piece with consumers about who you are as a brand and what you're doing with your packaging to be more responsible. And I'm going to give you just a quick example here. Um, I was recently, it's been a few months ago now, I was on Twitter, which is now X, and I was just kind of scrolling through. I kind of keep my social media searches related to packaging, to innovation, to retail, to brands. But I came across this particular social media post, and it was from the Glass Packaging Institute. And they weren't showing me a picture of glass. They weren't necessarily promoting glass as being pure or recyclable or using high percentages of recycled content, but they were appealing to me with this image of this beautiful horse. It's backlit. You can see its mane is flowing. and they've communicating with me in a way that inspires me rather than just talks to me. And what they have said is, when I use cosmetics in glass packaging, this is what I'm going to look like. And, you know, gosh, that's a pretty good looking horse. And I can see the beauty. I can see that the connection between glass packaging and that beauty. So when you've got packaging trade organizations using social media to influence consumers' purchasing decision, not for an individual product, but for a package format, I think this is really powerful, and why I really recommend the use of social media and social media influencers. The last thing I'm going to share today, I think, really speaks to some of these things that Luciana was talking about in her opening comments about how packaging is a global community, but how it's about more today than just being responsible with our packaging. She talked about her involvement with the Women in Packaging group in Mexico. More and more, we are seeing brands, manufacturers, retailers, all types of companies and service providers really look at and adopt one or multiple of the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, because these goals are not just about packaging, but they're about responsibility. They're about diversity and inclusion, responsibility to the earth, about fighting hunger and poverty, things that packaging can address. I have not seen it yet on individual packaging, but I have seen individual of these SDG icons on package manufacturers' websites. These are something that I think a social media influencer could really share with consumers about who we are as a company. What is our ethos? What is important to us? And how are we communicating that to consumers? And engaging consumers with your responsibility about soil conservation, about water use, about diversity and inclusion, about fair pay. These are things that half of consumers say that if you as a company act unethically, that they are prepared to boycott you as a brand and your products. So I think we need to take a much closer look at not just sustainability, but this harmonization toward quantifiable, measurable goals as laid out by the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Adopt them. Talk to consumers about who we are and what our principles are as a company. Yes, you can adopt them to packaging and look at such things as how much water do we use in production? How does, what does our income level, what do we give back in terms of a percentage to making sure that we are hiring properly, that we are paying fair and equitable wages to people who go out, the pickers, and go out and collect plastics in landfills to make sure that they have a good life as well. So these are just some of the trends that I have seen. Arguably, there are probably 100 others that you may think are really important today. But to kind of put all these things in a perspective and to wrap up, it's people ask me all the time, well, what trends do I need to pay attention to? What do I need to do to be more sustainable? And I always tell them, what's important to you? Who are you as a brand? What do you want to communicate to consumers about not just the products and the packaging that you put into the marketplace, but who are you? And would you be a company that I would say I am proud to work for? So when you look at, what end use category you participate in, when you look at the packaging you use, the technologies, the processes, it's all about making sure that you can operate not only in a sustainable manner, but you can do it in an economically responsible manner as well. We know that all things around sustainability are a little more expensive and that we are here to make a profit, but there is a balance between economic and environmental strategy. So just think about who you are as a company and put any of these trends into perspective with who you are or what you want to be a more responsible player in the global packaging marketplace. So with that, I am happy to entertain questions about this presentation, about trends you see. So I'm going to take my picture off. I'm going to stop sharing. we'll go back to Luciana, and if you want to, host some questions, I'm happy to offer some answers.
Great, great, David. Thank you so much for this very insightful presentation. We have a very good positive response at the chat. People
Good.
really appreciating all the provoke that you made and the provocation you made and the information you shared, making a think, right? Making a think about it. So I hand out to Soha because we do have many
Okay.
questions that today. So let's go. And just a comment, people are asking for the slides. So let me remind everyone that this presentation will be available at WPO's YouTube account. So you can go through it again, and definitely you can print the screen and have the information you need. So Soha, up to you now.
You're on
Really,
mute, Soha. There you go. Yeah.
I really enjoyed your presentation, David. It was
Thank
really,
you.
really, especially that you triggered some controversial issues that many people talks about them, and we really
Yeah,
need to align with them.
it's our responsibility to not always share what people want to hear, but
Yes,
to offer them some realities, some different perspectives, and challenge their thinking as well. So as long as we can back it up
exactly.
with data and insights and expertise.
Exactly, and this is also our role as WPO. We always say that our organization is material neutral, and we don't entertain what is going on the greenwashing or on social media when they say, for example, paper is better than plastic and all of this. We don't like this. We always say we are a scientific and professional organization, and we back it with data. And we always emphasize on having a holistic approach, whether to claim that this is more sustainable than the other. And we don't like these comparisons as well. But for sure, you highlighted something. Consumers are misled, and that's why our role is, sometimes I always say it, to educate the consumer. As you say, consumers are really lost. Even the issue of CO2, because we know that the kids are buying, our mothers are buying. So sometimes they don't understand this CO2 or recyclable or bioplastic. So all of this, sometimes they mislead the consumer. And here is our role to tell the brands that they have to put more efforts on educating the consumer to make their.
And let me speak to that's a really good point, but your use of the word educate. When we say we're going to educate a consumer, oftentimes we see at Mintel that consumers are hesitant to be educated because they think it means that they're uninformed or not as smart as someone. So I prefer to use the term, let's inform consumers, give them different
Yes, to raise the
information.
awareness. Yes, not
It's
educate, to raise the awareness.
yeah,
Yes.
it's maybe semantics, but when I say I'm going to educate you, sometimes that can be a little bit, put off. But if I say, well, just let me inform you a little bit, it's a little gentler way of saying I'm going to help you.
Yes, I totally agree. But I use the word education because as WPO, we focus on packaging education, on
Yeah,
training.
yeah,
This is what I mean by education. Like what we are doing today, this kind of promotion and webinar that we are doing. So this is what we mean. But yes, we can
yeah.
use other. Anyway, let's dive now into the question because we have some question. I will
Sure.
start with our Joseph, WPO member from Kenya. He's highlighting something that you have addressed regarding producer responsibility.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of issue regarding who is really responsible, who is really liable at the end of the day. Is it the brand? Is it the converter? Is it the handler, the supplier, the supply chain logistics? So what do you think about this?
And that was one of my points. I know I've read through some of the different states EPR legislation here in the United States, and even within the same document, as I said, on different pages, it's a little ambiguous. On one page, it may identify the producer as the brand. On the next page of the next paragraph, it may say the producer is the package manufacturer. So and oftentimes we don't know. And that's the challenge with different states, different regions having different language in these EPR legislation documents, is there is no agreement right now on who is the responsible party. Um, I think, my opinion, I think that needs to change, or I think it needs to be a shared responsibility, because if we put all the responsibility on the brands, it could be financially ruinous for a brand, for the fees they're going to have to pay. I believe that it has to be a shared responsibility, from the raw material supplier to the package manufacturer to the brand, even to the retailer. So my thought is, it needs to be a shared responsibility. Maybe, and if it's not divided equally, then there's going to be more arguments. But I think in whatever percentage, I think it has to be a shared responsibility.
And anyway,
Yeah,
in the new, yes, Luciana.
just to jump in, here in Brazil, it is a shared responsibility. So with
Okay.
different roles. So the brand is the one supporting reverse logistics systems, is the one pushing recycled content, and also informing consumers. But packaging industry is also responsible for enhancing the recycling infrastructure, and at the same time enhancing technology to use recycled content. And then you have consumers that choose disposal for recycling, and municipalities, the government, also supporting to establish not only waste management programs, but recycling streams as well. So as you said, it's here we do have this shared responsibility to balance the responsibility.
Yeah.
I like this, that the consumer also should be responsible, because really, also especially for littering, I wish in Lebanon or in our region we will have some laws on littering as we have it in other countries, because I think this is also important to reduce seeing packaging waste all around the
And
region.
the challenge, to a counterpoint to my thought about shared responsibility, is the challenge to that is, how do we then prevent cost pass-throughs? Because if it's a government or municipality who's paying a fee, they're going to charge the consumer higher taxes. If it's the brands, then they might pass through that cost to the consumer. So it's, how do we share this responsibility without passing through those costs, and making sure that it's ultimately not going to be the consumer that's always, at the end of the day, going to be paying more in taxes, more in food prices, that sort of thing. So it's a huge challenge.
And I think in the upcoming PPWR, I think they tackle this issue of extended producer or consumer or even responsibility. So, and later on we will.
And as we're seeing in the chat here, everybody has a different thought on who's ultimately responsible. So.
Okay, so let's see. There's also another question from Martin Kimshaw regarding the carbon footprint indicator, because you also mentioned about it and people like it. A ton of carbon is a ton of carbon. So he's saying, is there any risk of falling into the carbon tunnel vision trap? Does this mean that the trade-off cannot be ignored? So I don't know how you can address this question.
I think the trade-offs are, we have to continue to optimize our package design. We have to continue to be responsible in our use of all materials. But at the end of the day, I think we still have to look at, again, as Luciana said in the very beginning, that holistic picture. What's the big picture of what we're doing? And we have to stop, picking apart the pieces that make us look good, and look at the pieces, the sum of the pieces and what it's going to mean in that big picture. So, and to me, that's the only way to do that, is carbon footprint. We could continue to have the lightweighting, down gauge, recycled content, compostable arguments for the next, 50 or 100 years. But that total carbon footprint, or total carbon footprint reduction, is what I believe puts the whole world on an apples to apples scale in terms of making claims, looking at the bigger picture. Because yes, we could put 100% recycled content and say this package is more sustainable than, but if it's still going to a landfill because it's not collected. We look at weight. So I think total carbon footprint, at least in my mind, is the only metric right now that gives us fair comparisons across materials, formats, production, distribution, everything.
Thank you, David. There's another question from Abdurrahman Lashin. I guess they are from Egypt. And he's asking you about the relation between AI, the use of AI, and energy consumption. Is there any studies or proof that we can have AI on supporting us to produce more sustainable packaging, especially regarding calculating energy consumption offset? And do you have any information?
There's AI tools available right now. We can calculate anything. I mean, so to look at it in terms of design, of material use, but we have to consider that the information and the direction that we get from AI is reliant upon the information that we put into AI. That's why it's so important to set up these guardrails. I'll give you a very quick example. Mintel uses AI. We use it to help us and our clients find information much more quickly and to source that information and to put that information in context. But our guardrails say we are only using validated Mintel insights, data, and information. We are not looking at social media. We're not looking at Wikipedia. That way we can ensure that the information that we are getting out of AI and the strategic, direction that our clients are taking away from it is solid, good, reliable information. And so I think we can apply AI. We've seen it in recycling. We've seen it in design. We've seen it in quality control. It sort of takes that human bias out of the equation, but then gives us multiple outputs to allow us to look at different scenarios. And that's where that Industry 5.0 comes in. It's that ability to use AI, but then to insert the ability for humans to take that information and make the decision on it. So.
Another question from Ton, our new WPO corporate partner. Welcome, Ton. He's asking you about the risk of some consumer going from cheaper, non-sustainable product instead of sustainable packed product.
There's always that risk. Coming out of the pandemic, I believed that there was a real opportunity to talk to consumers about the beneficial attributes of packaging, particularly the environmental benefits. Because remember, during the pandemic, we relied on good packaging for safety and hygiene and delivery. So we thought that we were going to have the opportunity to talk about sustainability's positive impact coming out of that. But coming out of the pandemic, the world economy really turned south, and the purchasing decisions really turned much more toward value. And value doesn't always mean low price, but value means, do I see the value to my life? Does it make my life easier, faster, safer, more convenient, maybe more environmentally responsible? But I'm sad to say that environmental considerations have moved much farther back down the list in favor of price. Price is always going to be the number one consideration. Very seldom will consumers make a purchasing decision based solely on the sustainability or a sustainability claim. It's part of the equation. It's the expectation that consumers have of brands and packaging. The challenge is they expect brands to supply them with environmentally responsible packaging, but they don't necessarily reward them for doing it, but they will penalize them by choosing something else that's not in a sustainable package. Short answer, yes. Particularly right now, there is always the danger of a consumer buying a less expensive product or package that maybe is not as environmentally responsible as we would like it to be. But we also have to consider that sustainability is part of that overall value proposition. So I think consumers are price conscious, but they're even more value conscious. And there is a difference between price and value.
Thank you, David. I
Yeah.
have also made a small mistake. Tom is our WPO affiliated member. He just joined recently. Another
Good.
question is about greenwashing. And you just mentioned it also, and it's all over the social media, and sometimes,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's on the label as well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how do you think we can tackle this issue? I know that there's a new directive by the EU regulation on green claims, but how
Mhm.
do you think also we can tackle this issue of greenwashing forced by some owner, a brand, or a company?
We've seen we've seen some examples here in the U.S. where our Environmental Protection Agency is actually starting to enforce excuse me, some of their green marketing guidelines and certain claims that they can or cannot use, such as recycle ready or recycle where facilities exist, those sorts of things. Um, I hate to say it, but I think it's going to come down to some legislative body, whether it's the new regulations in Europe or um, the EPA in the United States, levying some multi-million-dollar fines to brands who are making unsubstantiated claims. I hate to say we need to make an example of someone, but I think that's what it's going to
No
take
need.
because the consumers, they're going to believe what's out there. We can't blame the consumers for believing what they read because we're giving them this false information or this misleading information. So it's just a shame, but we have to have some very strict cases that financially hurt someone or some brand to set the example to stop making these claims. And they're very hard to enforce. Again, many of the claims in the legislation could be tied up in court over ambiguous terms or context. So it's one of those things. I wish I had a hard and fast answer. I think it just comes down to the ethics of the brand. What do you want to communicate? Because we saw half of consumers, 49% of consumers are willing to boycott a brand that behaves unethically. Unethical behavior could be greenwashing. So, it's again everyone's responsibility, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be the recognition that you can be fined hundreds of millions of dollars for misleading consumers. You're on mute.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yes, yes. I will. I'm sorry that I will not be able to take all the questions. We promise you
Yeah.
that we'll have more time in our next webinar, but I will finalize with one question. Actually, everybody, you're Mintel, so everybody expects from you, David, some tips, especially for small business and food and beverage industry. So some tips to conclude our webinar today, like some trends that they should focus on, or some concern that they should highlight, especially for our SMEs.
Yeah, I think if you look at that very last slide where it's put things into your context, what is important to you as a brand? Is it your ethics? Is it attention to, we'll talk just about sustainability, for instance. You don't have to do everything to be a more responsible producer. So what's important to you? Is it recycled content? Is it compostability? Is it recyclability? You have to first understand what's important to you as a brand. What's the ethos or the ethics of your company? How do you want to be perceived? And pursue that and pursue it relentlessly. It could be we need much deeper insights and data. So right now, my focus is going to be artificial intelligence. It could be I'm using way too many virgin materials, so we need to look at recycled content. I'm using fossil fuel based, I need to reduce that or complement my portfolio with some other alternative material. So I think that the key thing that I always recommend is first understand who you are, what's important to you as a manufacturer, as a brand, and how can you achieve ethical responsibility, or look at those UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Pick one. What's going to be your brand mantra? What's going to be one thing that you are passionate about that you work toward? Is it diversity and inclusion? Is it responsibility to the earth? Is it conservation of water? Is it food safety? So look at those SDGs, pick one and start there.
Yes, you're right. SDG also are very, very important, and we can see them really everywhere. In many developing countries, I'm happy whenever I travel with WPO or with UNIDO, I see that really many countries, especially developing or least developed countries, are doing their best
and I think those SDGs are recognized and bring us together. When I was at the WPO banquet in Bangkok, one of your representatives, I think from Kenya, came up to me because I had the UN SDG pin on my lapel, and he had one on his shirt as well. And he came up to me and said, "Oh, we think alike because we've both got the same SDG pin." So I think it's one of the big unifying things that is recognizable, and we need to embrace it.
Thank you, David. I just want to remind what Luciana just said, and really after Luciana's presentation, it just really happy to see now flashback of the tsunami of the events that we have organized during the past 2 months. It was really busy organizing global events in different continents around the world. We are really proud with what WPO is doing, and the cycle never stopped. We just, as Luciana said, launched the entry for WorldStar 2025. So hurry up, prepare your entries. The deadline, we still have time. I know it's summer now in our part of the world, but we are here to support you with any question, any feedback regarding your entry. You deserve also to be a WorldStar winner and to be highlighted on the global stage of WorldStar. And I will give the floor to Luciana.
Thank you, Soha. Thank you, David. And especially thank you for this very dynamic audience. It was so nice to see all of you interacting. I just would like to leave you with 2 comments based on this very interesting discussion we had today. And as David said, it's about, for businesses, it's about finding the balance between the economic and sustainable development. So it's not about only profit. Now we know it's about to give and to take, to build shared value, to embrace your responsibility. We are all part of this only one planet, and we have to take care of it. So how we can run business in a profitable way, but in a responsible way as well, building how can I say, the value for on economics issues, sustainable one, and social one as well. And then coming to socials, a last comment, since today we have provoking different perspectives. And I would like to remember that consumers are as well citizens. And as citizens, they have rights, but consumers have responsibilities as well. We tend to pamper consumers because they are our clients. But it's time we push consumers to pursue their responsibilities as well. And we need consumers, yes, to read labels, to understand how this brand is bringing sustainability within that product, how they, as consumers, should deal with that empty packaging and proper disposal with to avoid pollution or to send it to the recycling systems. So we do have to inform consumers and engage them as citizens that have very bold responsibilities, again, within this planet that we all live. So thank you so much. Remember that this webinar will be available for all of you at WPO's YouTube account, and see you in August in our next webinar. Thank you, David, so much. Thank you, Soha.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia, from our secretariat behind the scenes as well.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Natalia, and thank you. Bye.
Bye.